Okay. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay. So, we have a little bit of a thought exercise. Fictitious scenario. Curt, I want you to come up with a fictitious athlete. They can be a high school, college, or even a professional athlete. You pick the sport. You pick the name, what color their hair is, whatever else.
Wow,
Other details
I
you
really
want.
get to dive in.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Ideally, later stages of high school, if we're going into high school, at the point where they're really starting to prioritize a single sport just for the sake of simplicity
Okay.
for the exercise.
I would say let's start with a higher level athlete and work probably backwards. Do you think that
Sure.
that route's correct?
Perfect.
So let's start, and we won't go professional. We'll go college.
Okay.
And then if we want to touch on high school, we can.
Okay.
So college athlete, let's do football.
Okay.
And they can have red hair.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a ginger?
Yeah.
All right.
What else am I supposed to guess on?
What? I don't know. What's his name?
Oh, name. Holy crap. Frederick.
Okay. So that kind of fits in, I guess. Okay.
I feel like that's a redhead name.
Okay, yeah, totally. So, the regular season ends or the playoffs have to make the postseason. In high school, say there was some sort of winter flag football league that he would do all winter, and then once the spring hit, it's like, all right, team is starting pretty much installs and other like 7-on-7 drills and stuff, and that's pretty much their off season before the next season starts. What's the problem with all of that now that he's transitioning into college?
The problem with the flag football all year round is just, one, flag football is a whole different sport than actual football, if you want to go on that tangent. But from a modality wise, like, they're moving in similar patterns, so he never gets to fully focus on his like weaknesses. Never gets a true off season, never gets that mental reset.
So what should happen in that off season?
He should just train or play a different sport.
Yeah.
Like, your main sport might be, so I guess you're in college. He's a college athlete, I gotta remember that. So you just train.
So what would he not be getting by pretty much playing his sport in the off season instead of training in the off season?
He's just overworking the same, I don't know, I kind of already said it. But he's not getting better at any of his weaknesses, and he's just overloading like that same, depending on what position he is. But like, if he's a quarterback, he's screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's constantly just throwing all year round. His shoulder's going to tear up. Wide receiver, all that stuff. Like, you're just running in the same patterns. You're just not getting any advantage of your weaknesses, and you're just overloading your joints in that same movement pattern for what that would be 9 to 10 months out of the year.
Yeah, call it that. Yeah, so let's talk about the topic of injury then. So I know we said Frederick plays football, whatever. If you have, say, a basketball player, and they are pretty much, they go from their regular season, they go from their team season into, what do they have, a spring league afterward?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are summer leagues. I'm not super in tune with what all the different leagues are in basketball. But what's going to happen to them as they pretty much run up and down the court, jump on the court for 10 months out of the year?
Their knees are going to, I mean, I have kids that do it now, and they're just high school level, but still their knees are just constantly, my knees hurt. And, I mean, shout him out, Brady Mayo, one of the better basketball players, probably the best basketball player to ever go through Beaver. He's going to go to 4-eyed Slippery Rock. And it's constantly, my knees hurt. He's in track season right now, but he also plays AAU basketball.
You got to tell him to tough it out.
Yeah, just keep toughing it out.
Rub some dirt on it.
Run some dirt on it.
And get back out there.
Yeah. But, I mean, his knees are constantly going to hurt, and then eventually it's just going to lead to injury.
Yeah.
And a severe injury, unfortunately.
So what we're looking at here is this offseason can probably provide two things for him. Offseason meaning a step away from specific sport. Mm-hmm. That meaning, A, time for those knees and those connective tissues to recover, but B, how can you use the offseason to strengthen those connective tissues, those joints, so that when you go back to your regular season, maybe you're a little bit more enduring.
Yeah.
You're a little more resilient when you come face to face with some of that fatigue that comes on later in the season.
Yeah, exactly. Now he gets to have a whole dedicated program where pretty much his only focus is to get stronger and get healthy. So you're just going to run him through Now he actually gets to load his body properly in a true strength setting.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in season, you're doing lower volume, lower percentages because you want to perform. But these kids constantly want to perform because they're playing I got to perform. I got to perform. I got to perform. It's like, all right, you're trying to just constantly perform at a high level, maintain maybe some strength. Some don't even lift in season, and that would make me want to gouge my eyes out. And that's topic on a later note. But now he has all the time in the world to just focus on recovery, nutrition, and training. And he actually gets to dive in on his weaknesses, which, I mean, now he's going to go through a true strength progression with squats, with trap bar deadlifts, and now all those things carry over to actually strengthening your knees, being able to endure those type of plyometric jumps constantly. He gets to go on a plyometric jump program where he's like doing depth jumps and progressing through that, where he's loading up those tissues and just getting them prepared for a true season and actually peaking in a season instead of constantly just being hammered down. So at the high school level, luckily kids are so resilient that a lot of coaches get away with murdering their kids like that too.
They're so resilient and they're so young that they can really adapt to anything that you give them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you just said there, they adapt to anything you give them. So like again, a lot of horrible programming gets praised upon too because it's just like, well, that worked. It's like, no, your kid's just
it's like
genetically gifted.
Have you ever seen dodgeball? Whenever they go out try to dodge traffic. I mean, I'm sure if you have some high schoolers go out and get hit by a car a few times, they'd probably adapt in some sense.
Yeah.
It'll
exactly.
work.
It'll work.
It'll work until they.
It'll have some effect on them.
Yeah. But no, I think this is a good topic that we're pivoting into because weakness assessment, pretty much prioritizing your weaknesses in the off season. How much better can an athlete get, especially as they climb the ranks of competitiveness, from whether that's just more competitive high school play or moving into college?
Yeah.
How much better can they get at the sport by just playing the sport once they reach a certain point?
Right. And from a basketball sense, like skill-wise, there's always little things you can work on.
Definitely.
But you can work on that's what they don't understand is like you can work on little skills in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. You want to go do some dribbling drills and just keep your shot right and get your shots up. Yeah. There's no true impact to your body, but you just playing.
You don't have to play 3-on-3, 5-on-5.
Exactly.
5 days a week.
Yes, exactly.
To refine your shot, to refine your technique.
Yep. Yes. Exactly. You don't have to go through that pain and endurance all the time. Like you can just get creative with your drills. Like if we're staying on the basketball side, watch Steph Curry train. Like he's just so creative and like how he doesn't do the same like I'm gonna go to this cone and cross over. No, he kind of just like free balls it and plays well, moves in different directions that he wouldn't normally. So he's he trains in the off season and then you watch him play and it's like wow, he can go literally anywhere and still shoot the ball because he didn't just hammer something. Yeah. So
now if we were to say pivot to football running back, like I don't know. That Frederick example is probably out the window. I mean, you said he plays quarterback. Who knows what he plays? But Frederick is 6 feet tall.
All right.
He is 175 pounds, and he's going into his senior year. And
he's a running back.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. What would an off season do for him if that off season was constructed the right way?
Oh, it would make Frederick awesome. 6 foot, so he has a good frame. 175.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I picked that number for a reason.
And then, what were the other? Was there any other tangibles you gave me? Does he have any like weaknesses in like speed, strength?
His legs are about that wide.
That wide.
That's about the girth.
So he's
of
probably
his legs.
fast.
Yeah.
But he has no strength or durability to his body.
Yeah. So how would you structure an off season for him? Just basic. It doesn't have to be super in depth.
No. Yeah. We would just get him strong. Yeah. And strong as heck.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is how much stronger can you get just playing football, just playing your sport?
Not really at all. He's gonna stay 175. He's gonna get. I mean, there's been examples of this even going through Beaver, more in a lineman setting. But you had a lineman, great build, and like Frederick has a decent build, just doesn't have the weight. This lineman 6'6", has weight, not enough, but couldn't even bench 135. Right. Goes to a camp and they're like, I mean, I don't think it was 135, but it was in the hundreds, like 185. You have a 6'6" lineman, and then they like pulled a scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the crazy thing too, is like development of the strength in your linemen. But there's like what I noticed a lot of linemen is they get a lot bigger, a lot faster than they probably expect to.
Yes.
And they don't really know how to move their body. So if you have a 6'6" lineman in high school, probably recently got to that size,
Yep.
they can't bench not only because their strength is lacking, but because they don't really know how to use their body.
Yeah.
And when you're that tall and you have to move that barbell that
far,
it's challenging to move anything
when
that
he's
far.
probably like 2 years ago, like you said, it was challenging.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he was probably 5'10", 5'11". Like that transfer was probably like, what, 8th to 10th grade or something like that.
Call it.
Yeah, and now he has to move the bar 4 more inches, and his body's spread out more. He's not as probably compact. Yeah, that is tough, but that's where, again, the off season comes in. Right?
Yeah.
Now you have to learn how to adapt to this new body and all the new weaknesses that came with it.
Yeah. I'm glad that you bring that up too, because that off season isn't only going to be get him stronger, but there comes the neural adaptations of getting used to how big your body is, and it's going to be crazy how fast somebody like him could improve just by getting used to his body.
Yeah.
Because say he could bench 185 going into that off season, he could probably not build any muscle and get up to a 245, 255 bench within that off season.
Easy.
Without even getting bigger, without even gaining.
Without it, yeah, exactly. Without even probably eating right or sleeping right.
Correct,
just kind of just lifting.
Yeah.
Like you said, they can make those adaptations so quickly, and especially, so say he was put on it in the off season, he started lifting, but it wasn't great. I guarantee still, if he just showed up, put in work, and the programming wasn't great, still probably benches 225, just because he's a high school kid and he's adapting.
Yeah.
Now you dial it in, he's probably benching 255, 265. Actually get him through a proper progressive overload and keep the rep schemes correct and the volume correct, he's gonna dominate.
Yeah, if he is recently growing into that if he recently reached that 6'6" frame, if you have the correct program for him and you let him fill that frame out, and it's going to take longer than that single off season for that to happen, but enough can happen in that one off season to where, if your neural adaptations can take you to the point where you're benching 250-ish, if you fill out that frame a little bit, you're looking at probably pushing a 300-pound bench.
Yeah, honestly.
Not within maybe that single off season, because your body's going to fill out more slowly than those neural adaptations take place. But I mean, he might even hit a PR during the season, because at that point, whenever you're trying to reduce volume, you're trying to prioritize speed, prioritize freshness, you're just hitting some heavy singles, see how fast you can move.
He's probably going to be fresh, and he probably would hit a PR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a shame that in what this kid would probably do in high school, he would probably go and do some type of, 7-on-7 something, or just something, not taking a true off-season. Football, I would say, is a little harder with the off-season. A lot of those athletes get a better off-season.
Yeah, okay. When you said harder with the off-season, I didn't know if you meant harder to take an off-season or harder to
it's probably one of the
find examples of a poor off-season.
Yeah, it's one of the easier ones to have, especially from the lineman standpoint.
Correct, yeah.
No offense to the lineman, but I mean, some of them might hoop. But at least when hoops are moving different, so but it'd be like, here's a good topic in the off season, and it's hard to outline this. So a kid goes from football to basketball, but his priority's football. It's like, dude, you still got this is your off season. Like, yes, you're gonna hoop. One, you're in high school, you're gonna adapt, you're gonna be fine. You gotta lift, and you gotta lift heavy. Like, this is your sport. You can't take it. But, oh well, I'm hooping. It's like, no, like, this is your off season. Like, you're gonna move differently, and a volume's gonna have to be adjusted because you're still doing different things. But this is your off season. Like, you picked, like you said, you got into that singular sport. You picked it. It's fine that you go play a different sport and move differently, but this is your sport. Like, football's your sport.
And there's nothing per se wrong with those other sports. Sure, like, if you were trying to train in your off season for your main sport and you're playing another sport at the same time, it's going to take some balancing between the two, because you can't push your secondary sport at even 85-90% effort while still hoping to make appreciable gains in your strength and in your size elsewhere for your main sport. It makes me think too, like, say you have your linemen, like we were talking about, perhaps they wrestle in their off season. Now,
that's a perfect one.
If they are big enough to push into that heavyweight category, I want to say it's above 220 pounds, if I remember right, which is very reasonable for a lineman that size.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit big for some people, especially in high school. But res wrestling matches are 6 minutes long. I might get some flack for saying this, but those heavyweights don't even necessarily have to have crazy technique.
Yeah.
If they're better conditioned than their opponent, if they're stronger than their opponent, that usually takes them most of the way. If you have your guys who are really refined technically, they just kind of mop the floor with everybody else.
100%.
But if you're wrestling in your off season, that's really a good sport to say, I want to prioritize getting bigger and getting stronger.
Yes.
Because if you weigh 230 pounds, you're not going to gain 55 pounds in that offseason because that's the cap on heavyweight. At least last time
Is it really?
when I was in high school, 285. Yeah. So
you're not going to gain 55 pounds.
Yeah. So instead of you can get stronger, you can get bigger, and you can go out and wrestle some kids a few times a week and throw them around, and
that just so much helps on their body awareness. Yeah. Talk about that kid that went from 5'10" to 6'6". Now he's actually neural adaptation is crazy when you put it into wrestling. That's why wrestling is such a great sport for especially football players.
Oh yeah.
Every football player, if you don't play hoops, you should probably wrestle in your off season.
And it's
especially from the lineman standpoint.
Right. Because you think about it now, it's like if you're trying to look for, like we were talking about with those basketball players, how do we refine your skills, whether it's your shooting mechanics, your dribbling, handling, whatever. You take a football player, call them a lineman, just to be more specific.
Yeah.
You throw them into wrestling, and that is essentially refining those skills that we were just talking about. If we were to say, okay, these are basketball player skills. Now, here are the skills that aren't 100% specific to football, but they're going to have great carryover. How do you manipulate your body relative to another person's body? That's pretty much what you're doing on the line at all times.
Yep. You're literally, how do I physically beat the person across from me?
Yeah.
Is wrestling. And that's what's awesome. Wrestling, I didn't do it, but I respect the crap. I mean, I know you did it. You talk from experience. It's you versus the other guy. It's all out on there. You could get humbled, and it's great. I hope they get humbled.
Yeah.
You need that.
The younger, the better, too.
Exactly.
If you have wrestlers who start when they're, I don't want to say they get super serious about it at the age of 5 or 7, but if they start doing it at 5 or 7 and they get their butt whooped, there's there's benefit to that for whatever you're doing. It doesn't even have to be carry over to sport.
Yeah. And at that 5 and 7, they're probably gonna cry.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I want them to cry. Honestly,
exactly. I want them to cry. I want you to feel that. I want you to feel what it is being humbled, what it is getting your butt whooped. And now you know. And now you're not gonna want that to happen again. You're probably gonna train harder, and you're just not gonna know how to adapt. And say that does carry over to football. You get your butt whooped a whole series.
Yeah.
Guess what? There's still 3 quarters left.
Exactly, yeah.
You're going to get 10 more series.
That was probably 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get a whole more opportunity. So you have to, if you don't get that humbledness at that young age, you're probably just going to quit.
Yeah.
This guy's just going to tear me up all game. And I'm going to say my ankle hurts, and I'm going to let the second string go.
And there are even times where I would volunteer at some youth tournaments whenever I was in high school, or even just out of high school, I was in college, coming home for breaks.
Yeah.
And I would see some of these kids... not cry after losing, which is okay, whatever, maybe you've been doing it wrong. But it's this general lack of interest because that's the reason they're not crying. So at an early age, if you see their emotional response to what happens in the match, it's usually a good indicator of their investment in the sport or that sport specifically or sport in general, really.
Yeah, sport in general and just character.
Yeah.
Nothing kills me more. And not to say I haven't done it in my life. I try not to, but when you start losing and then you just show that disinterest and you're just like, oh, I'm give up.
Yeah,
you can learn so much if you don't do that. And it's a thing for parents to take from this is just support your kid. Don't hammer them down more because that's probably not what they need. But just hey, come on, this could be a great learning experience. You can still adapt in this way. You could still you're down by 40. All right, go try it. 0-0 right now. See if you can score. Yeah. Get up on them on 10. All right, you already lost the game, but see if you can maybe beat them in this quarter. That's a goal, and you can just learn more. And I mean, you're playing better talent. Nothing more you can learn than losing. Honestly, probably learn the most from losing than you do winning. Mm-hmm. Everyone goes back. Oh, we won. I don't have to make any adjustments. It's they probably did, but you don't look at them like that. You're I won. You don't win. No, you're I got to make adjustments. What are my weaknesses? What am I going to need to do this off season to?
I was just going to say, let's take these bad experience, quote unquote bad experience, and use that to lay the foundation for what your off season looks like.
This guy just mopped the floor with me because he was just stronger than me. It's all right, buddy. You gotta get some strength up. This person just cooked me because he's so much more agile than me. All right, we got to work on this. And that's just you really take and learn from those losses so you can pinpoint your weaknesses and then take it. I mean, like you said, and you could do it from wins. Mm-hmm. I guess if you're a stud at a young age, which there's some, and you never lose, then you just got to dial it in and be all right, what did this kid almost get me on?
In wrestling especially, if you are just a monster at a young age, it kind of snowballs. There's some benefit to mopping the floor with people because of how mental of a sport it is.
That is true.
If you're used to losing, you go in there expecting to lose, and your intention starts to
be fair.
Your intention becomes, how can I lose by as little as possible instead of how can I win? I was a victim of that, especially early mainly in junior high. If I knew I was wrestling someone good, and then early in high school, and then to have a little bit of an anecdote tying in this off season to how we approach our work in season. By the time I was in 10th or 11th grade, at that point I stopped wrestling year round. Not that I wrestled competitively year round, but in the off season I would go to different camps, different club wrestling houses, and that's where I would learn pretty much as much technique as I could.
Yeah.
And being so as technically oriented as I am, at least from a mental perspective,
I mean, you're probably one of the most technical people I've ever met in my life.
Anytime the season would roll around, that would be all I think about whenever I would wrestle on the mat. And
how far did it benefit you?
It didn't.
Really?
No, because I got to a point where, how do I want to phrase this? I got to a point where that's all I was thinking about, and I wasn't I wasn't present.
You weren't present in the match.
Moment. Some person had me in some position, and I was thinking about I could do A, B, C, D, E through Z. Yeah. And by that point, I'm already taken down, and they scored 2 points on me. Yeah.
You weren't just adapting to the way it felt. It's like, all right, this happened. Boom.
Yes.
I gotta do A.
By the time I stopped wrestling year round, stopped being as technically oriented year round, between 10th and 11th grade, I gained 30 pounds. I put 100 pounds on my back squat. I just got crazy strong, and then by 11th grade, I was just going out there and mopping the floor with kids. Yeah. And it's sure I remembered a lot of that technique I developed as a kid, but I didn't use a lot of it. If you get 2 or 3 offensive moves, and you just know what you're doing, know how to feel out a situation when you're on defense, and then you just let your strength and your conditioning take over, you can just go out there and throw people around. The less you think and the more you can do, the better. So I think...
Because in wrestling, probably that quicker...
Yeah.
I mean, and like you said, that is a good point. Like, you learned a lot of technical, but you were thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
Learn that technical, but turn it off.
Yeah.
Like, it'll just... You need it to happen fluidly. You need it to happen in the moment. That's the same with any sport. It's like, if you're thinking about... I'm going to drop back. I got to get my shoulder in this position. You're going to get sacked.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not aware of your surroundings. You're like, oh, I got to do 2 crossovers and then drive left on this guy. It's like, well, he moved right on your first crossover and ripped the ball out because you were predetermined in this technical situation instead of just adapting on the fly.
Yeah, by the time I was a senior and I had 2 legitimate off seasons of just getting stronger, as strong as possible. I would go out there. I would do 2 things if we were neutral on our feet, and I would throw you to the floor. 9 out of 10 kids couldn't really stop what I was doing. And if I was riding you on top, that's not going to sound good depending on the context. And I was trying to turn you to your back. That's how you score points.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Wrestling's...
Oh. Do you want to wrestle now? No. But I literally would do 2 things. And 9 out of 10 kids could not stop it just because of all the strength training. Yeah.
And that's where... There was something I read the other day, and it was just on strength. Like, so many things are, and I'm a big advocate of sprint train first. Like, if you want to get fast, you got to sprint train first. But then I'm also a big advocate is you have to get strong. I'm sick of all this stupid med ball, stand, press, like sit on a med ball and press it, or like too sport specific. Like, well, I need a football in my hand while I do. No, dude, get strong and fast. Like, that is all you need to do. And you just proved a point of how much better of an athlete it made you. Mm-hmm. And it definitely made me, we started strength training, I think when I was in 9th grade, and I probably went from a barbell back squat, and then by the end of it, I was squatting over 400 pounds. Yeah. I think I squatted like 435 my senior year, and it's just like I was just stronger than most people, and it's crazy that benefit, mass plus strength in contact sports. Mm-hmm. You're gonna, I mean, wrestling has weight classes, but don't you want to be, if you're not on that high end, you better be sound. You better be sound and stronger than the person. Like, mass plus strength always wins.
Now, the weight classes are
velocity
tight enough to where being at the top end versus bottom end doesn't make too much of a difference.
What is the...
it depends which weight class you're in, because lighter people, they're tighter. Heavier people, they're further apart. I was going to say heavyweight
would probably be tough.
Yeah. If you're what
did you say, 225 to 285?
The next weight class before heavyweight, which goes up to 285, is 220.
So it's 220 to...
So you're going 195 to 220, and then 220 to 285.
Yeah, if you're 195, you're probably getting tossed around.
Yes, you are. Now, within those lighter weight classes, though, like, I don't want to say light because the lightest weight class is 106 pounds, and then it goes to 113 or 120. Yeah. But whenever you get to
What were you?
By senior year, I was 152. Freshman year,
so
I
you
was...
haven't gained much weight.
Freshman year, I was 113.
I mean, you're 175 right now, right?
I'm like 170.
Okay.
But there's something to be said about body composition within those weight classes.
You were a little stud back then, huh? A little meatball.
Dude, let me tell you something. When I was in 10th grade, I was 130 pounds. When I went into
That's what I mean.
When I went into my 11th grade season...
You had a crazy off season.
When I went into my 11th grade season, I was 160.
And what does that... So would you say, going back to just the off season, going on the nutritional side of it, what did you do to gain that weight? 'Cause you have so many kids. I can't gain weight. I can't gain weight. I can't gain weight. Yes, you can. You have to eat at a calorie surplus. Like, I'm sorry. And you might have to eat till you don't feel that great. But... like, you just have to eat. But they're like, I eat a lot. Every kid says that. Did you eat breakfast? Well, no.
Define a lot.
Dude, you just missed 5 hours of you being up and you didn't eat something yet today. Yeah, you might have had a big lunch that's going to fill you up in that time, and then you might have had a big dinner. That's 2 meals, maybe 2,000 calories. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you had a snack. You had 2,500 calories a day. You're a high school athlete. That's... what, even on the lower 5'8" and 160 pounds. Like, you're flying through calories.
Yeah, not only is, I don't know, the energy you expend in your activity.
Yeah.
You have your just general basic metabolic rate, but also you're still growing.
Yes.
Look how young, like, a lot of the nutrients, a lot of the calories you're eating are going into making your body probably another 2 inches taller and 20 pounds heavier just on a natural basis.
Yep.
But I know for me, whenever I gained those 30 pounds...
So that was in one off season?
That was in one off season. Yes. 30 pounds on my body weight, 100 pounds on my squat. I'm sure I had other stuff, but that's just what I remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't tracking macros. Now I'm very diligent about tracking numbers. You can
I know
mixed opinions on tracking numbers for kids that age.
I don't know. Yeah, that's tough.
Because
you're not going to weigh it out.
No.
High schooler.
No.
College.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
You're bought in a little more. High school. High school's tough. How were your parents heavy on you on the food, or did you just dive into it?
Dude, I could start this story from the time I turned like 12 years old.
Oh, I think you've told me a little bit of it.
Yeah, I was heavy as a kid.
Yes.
My dad said, "Hey, if you're this heavy going into football season, you're going to struggle." So at that point, we just pretty much dialed in my activity, dialed in my nutrition.
But see, your dad dialed you in.
Yeah.
And that's what and not to knock on parents if you don't want the success for your. Not that if you don't want it, everyone wants success.
I was going to say that's kind of rough.
I know that was a little rough. Everyone wants success for your kid, but if you want to dive into it, they're high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like if my dad was huge on, and he didn't know that much about nutrition, but like he was actually weirdly huge on protein.
Yeah.
Like, I had to drink this protein shake, and back, not that I don't want to say I'm that old, but back in my day, they were gross.
Yeah.
Protein back then was absolutely disgusting. I would literally be gagging, and he'd just be like, sorry. He's like, you want it? And like he went for it. It's not like he was guzzling down, but he's like, do you want to gain weight?
He held you at
like,
gunpoint.
Yeah, right.
Say, hey, drink this.
Drink this now. But yeah, and it's just a shout out to parents. If your kid's invested in the sport, help them, because they're a kid.
Yeah,
it's tough, and I have to dial back that, and I have to think like when I train kids, I'm like, all right, remember, you want so much for them. As their coach too, because you want to see them succeed. You're starting to get close to them, and I drill them all the time. Like, you need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to do this, and they're probably like, I hate you. Like, I know, and like it's just I need your parents to just help with that a little bit too, and just make it easier for them if you can. Like if you're a parent and you have the time, make them breakfast. Like I was so fortunate that I woke up and there was breakfast just ready for me to house and all at the door. Because if it's not, they aren't making it.
Yeah.
Even if they're dedicated, they could be one of the most dedicated their kid. You know, they just don't know that yet, and it stinks to see an athlete say they eat a lot and they don't.
And that's why I appreciated the development of those habits at an early age, because then I was more self-sufficient by the time I even got into 7th, 8th grade. And then in high school, it was just unless I'm eating dinner with the family, everything else is on me and I'm on top of it.
Yep. Which is awesome. Like that's awesome that your dad instilled that in you at such a young age. And it was just like, I had the honest talk with you. You want to be good at football? That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just what parents kind of have to sit down and be like, it was great awareness, as in a lot of parents are like, oh, my kid's the best. It's like, all right, well, let's actually look at it. And like, your kid probably has a lot of talent. Let's make him the best.
Yeah.
But like, he's not just the best naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not how it works anymore, especially with all the stuff out there. I mean, genetics are genetics. Obviously, there's always some freak of nature, but there's so many. I feel like there's so many kids that gain. Once you get in high school and once you get into college, it's like if you're not dialed in, you're toast. You're not making it. You're definitely not making it to the next level, or even probably seeing the field.
Mm-hmm.
High school, you can get away with it way more, and that's probably the shame. But if your kid has any hopes of playing at the next level, they got to get dialed in, because if they don't, it's gonna be a rude awakening freshman year. Why don't you get that jump start on everybody now, and take these off seasons like a college athlete does.
Yeah. In
college, you pick one sport and they play it. Like I said, I'm a big advocate, especially up till at least 10th, 11th grade. Play every sport you can, because you're still learning at that, and you need the different modalities. You need to move in different directions. It's good to take the break from football and you're going into basketball or wrestling, moving differently, and not taking as much impact. And then like going into track and stuff like that, which can also lead me down. Track's a tough one. But yeah, you have to take the off season appropriately now, because in college, what do? You have an off season, and they lay it out for you. You probably have I mean, if you're a high level athlete, like a Division I college, probably D2 even does it now. I don't know much about. I don't know if D3 probably don't have that money, but they might. But they probably have a nutritionist, or a dietitian on their staff, and it's like, this is what you eat. You want to see these results? This is what you eat. Like, I lay it out for you. Food's paid. Just got to put the fork in. Like, that's how simple it is for them at that college level, because they made it there. Start dialing that in now, and you're going to be tens and folds. Why not look at what the elite do and make some adjustments to what your lifestyle is?
Yes, I mean, what we're looking at here is, as you start to funnel your athletic intentions, your ambitions into that single sport, your off season becomes, I don't want to say more important than your season.
Yeah.
But on an individual basis, you should really be looking at, how can I optimize my nutrition as much as possible in terms of pursuing a specific goal, and same thing for your training. So we're looking at, how deliberate can we be with our off season?
Yes.
Once it starts, like instantly, you take your week off after the season ends.
Take your break. Every kid, season ends, probably ended not the way they wanted to, right. So they're immediately like, I need to get in the gym.
One team gets what they want at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. So more than likely, your team didn't end the way they wanted. I need to get better. And it's like, some of the kids are like, take your week.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Take your week. How would you lay out, what was your nutrition like? If you remember, what was your day? You woke up, did this, mapped it out on your 30-pound climb.
Oh, okay.
Just to give a true example of what you ate.
Yeah, so I didn't track the numbers at that point.
Yeah, which is great.
But what I would use to gauge how much I was eating was how much food is on my plate, pretty much. So in that kind of case, if I was at breakfast and I was eating 2 eggs, if I want to get bigger now, I'm eating 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So it was eggs, oatmeal, a lot of each. I don't know. I can't remember if I was drinking milk at that point, but I drink milk now. It's an easy way to get extra calories. It's like
awesome.
If you have milk with
people are haters on milk. There's like a big advocate of like, once you hit a certain age, you shouldn't drink milk anymore. Hey, for you.
If you have a regular sized glass of milk with each meal, congratulations. That's 300 extra calories on your day. You don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. You don't have to think about it at all. People are I used to drink. So I drank milk after meals in college. After I was done. After I quit on my athletic career. In that aspect, before I got into the lovely sport of CrossFit, I would drink milk with like all my dinners. And my roommates would just tear into me. They're like, "Dude, you are a foul human being." I'm like, this is delicious.
Oh, it's
you
good,
guys don't just like a glass of milk.
Especially, this is a side topic, but the more bland that your meal is, if you have it with a glass of milk, it
enhances it. It
gives it a little bit of color.
It's a little sprinkle on top.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, this is great.
But yeah, whenever I was trying to build weight or put on weight in high school, that breakfast was probably 3 eggs. It was a cup of oatmeal, scoop of protein powder in the oatmeal. If I had some sort of fruit on hand, I would put that in there as well. Lunch was, I would always have my dad, like I would prep these chicken breasts in my head, I'd have my dad grill them. So I'd probably have 2 to 3 of those with as much rice as would fit on the plate,
Yeah.
whatever space was left on the plate. Did I have a vegetable? I can't remember.
I would love for you to have a vegetable. Will I say it's incredibly important?
Now, here was my
I'd love for you to
logic.
get those vitamins.
Yeah, I took a multivitamin in the morning.
Yeah.
Here was my logic. There were, I don't know, 50 calories in a serving of vegetables, and there were 200 calories in a serving of rice. And I said, which is gonna put more in me for less space occupying in my less space in my stomach?
I'm with you.
And I was like, hey, calories is calories.
Yeah. Honestly, though, like at a young age too, dude. You need to eat 80% clean, in my opinion. Still, maybe 75. But like athletes need sugar. They need to eat some processed foods. Like, is that how I'm going to tell our people that are in our day-to-day gym? No, because you don't need that anymore. You're not trying to compete. Now, if you're still a competitor at this age, yes, you still need sugar. I'm sorry. Like, you actually sacrifice that aspect of your lifestyle you're training to perform. You're not training for longevity right now. Yeah. I mean, it's going to coincide and it's going to help more than the Gen Pop. But if you're going to train for athletic purposes, you got to eat sugar.
And honestly, you're not training to look a certain way either.
Yes.
Sure, you don't want to deviate too far from the standard mold of what a athlete in your position will look like.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be 7% body fat whenever 10 to 12 is perfectly fine.
And 10 to 12 is probably what you should be.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Like, athlete. Oh man, I don't have my abs. Summer's coming.
You're not as
chiseled as you. Player. Look at Travis Kelce with his shirt off. It's one of the best tight ends of all time. He's not ripped up. Like, no, you need some of that so you can take, especially if you're a contact athlete and you want to be at 6% body weight. Good luck, dude. When you take a hit, that's gonna hurt a lot.
See, I heard some of those dudes are like a 3 or 4% body fat. I don't believe that. That's just
Dude.
That's just the numbers they put out there.
I guess some of the wide receivers might be.
If they're that,
they're not getting hit that much.
They're not that.
But they're still probably not that low. I mean, you look at like DK Metcalf. There's like, there's not an ounce of body fat on him. It's like it's probably there. You don't really realize it just because he's genetically
distributed and what he looked like. Yeah,
he's just genetically freaky.
But yeah, if they're walking out there at a 4 or 5% body fat, there's no way they are a prepped bodybuilder stepping onto stage.
Yeah,
they're not going to be able to.
You're not
operate with their eyes open.
Yeah. You're not going to have the energy level because you're not going to have the energy, and when you get hit, you're going to get rocked.
Correct. Yeah.
So you're going to feel it so much more.
But no, I'm glad that you brought the topic of that 75-25 split, because after I would eat breakfast and lunch, dinner would be A, what did mom make?
Yeah.
B, we're going out to eat. I would sometimes order 2 meals.
Yeah.
And I would apologize to my parents afterwards.
Sorry, you're paying double tonight.
And at that was the point where I really started eating ice cream too.
Yeah.
And say what you want about a quote-unquote unhealthy food. There's calories, there's carbohydrates, there's fat. And that's another thing with me is I am not fat averse, but I find myself not eating much fat in the meals that I prepare for myself.
Yeah.
So that's why it's beneficial to get my meals out. Yeah. And if I need fat at the end of the day, I got some ice cream in the freezer.
Think about it. Like you said, you were eating chicken, rice, eggs were probably the most fatty thing you were eating.
It was, correct.
You were getting, 6 grams of fat 5 grams of fat per egg. Yeah. So you were probably only going into night
with like 40-ish grams of fat. Yeah,
exactly. So you
still honestly still about at that point.
You still had 40 to 50 grams that you needed to put probably in your body of fat, and all on 2/3 of your day's done. Yeah. So it's 1/3 of your day getting the rest of that fat.
Yeah, so if I gained 30 pounds that off season, I would say 20 of those pounds came from the food I ate between 6 p.m. and 9 or 10 p.m. Yeah.
But like and I think that is a great model too, because like you were so fueled and all your work was done after, probably more than likely, right? You'd go to dinner time and wrestling's over, training's probably over. So now you're just refueling for the next day. Your food in the morning was light enough and just like pure enough. It wasn't weighing down your body. Nothing was hitting. And you were getting a lot of the good nutrients. So you were really energized going into training and felt good. Like, and then the night you trained, depleted pretty much everything, and then you just refueled. And you refueled in the right way. You ate ice cream. Yeah. Sadly, I still eat ice cream a lot.
Why is that sad?
I don't know. I go back and forth on it. We still train a little bit competitively. You still train completely competitively. I'm always off and on. But the ice cream's never off and on.
No, I think.
But I don't know. You still gotta enjoy life.
Even if I'm not training for a period of time, it's still a staple for me.
Yeah, that's just so good.
It makes it easier for me to eat cleanly throughout the day.
That's the thing is like I think every meal I eat is and I've been weird. I'm on that like single ingredient kick every meal I've eaten is like single ingredient, no processed foods, and it's awesome. It feels great. It's all the right fuel, and then I'm gonna eat my ice cream at night.
Yeah,
like it does. It makes you eat very clean throughout the day, and it's like I'm looking forward to eating this ice cream and refueling my body, and don't think badly about it at all.
Yeah.
It is, especially if you're an athlete, it's great for you.
Oh yeah, and if that's the tangent we're going down, those kind of quote unquote unhealthy or poor meals actually make it a lot easier to eat the clean stuff more consistently.
Yes.
If you're super strict with your diet and you're trying to eat super cleanly all the time, I don't want to say you'll relapse, but you won't really enjoy eating the clean stuff as often.
Yes.
I go to eat my clean stuff, and it's A, habit, B,
right.
and I'm like, okay, I'm perfectly prepared to eat this. I have no problem with it. I look forward to it.
Yep.
Because every night I know I have something sweet or something
coming. Yeah. Yep.
Something quote-unquote unhealthy coming.
Yeah.
But then that's all it is for the day.
It's like that was worth it.
A, eating clean all around the clock doesn't force me to say, okay, on Saturday and Sunday I'm going crazy and eating a bunch of crap. And
because then you get into Monday and you feel like garbage.
And then on the flip side, sprinkling those unhealthy foods throughout your day, then you go back to your clean stuff, and it's like nothing ever changed, nothing ever happened, and you're back on your wagon.
No, I agree. I think that's one of the better outlines. And then if you do too much of the clean stuff, you're probably underfed.
You say you're probably underfed?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're probably not. You're not getting. You might think it's like, oh, I ate a lot. It's like it probably wasn't enough.
Yeah, if you're
especially as a competitor, that wasn't enough.
Now this isn't going to be indicative of a pretty large sample size, but you're looking at your high school athletes and say, I eat so much food and I can't gain weight.
Yeah.
Now maybe you are eating a lot of food. If it's all that clean food, congratulations, you earned double what you're eating pretty much.
Yes,
good luck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good luck. Because you are not fitting in what you need to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you probably did eat a lot, dude, but it still was only 2,000 some calories.
Like, that's the method that bodybuilders use, or at least from the stories that I've heard, to come off of a cut.
Yeah.
You're eating large quantities of clean foods because you need to eat more food because you're coming off of a cut, but eating that clean stuff will allow you to stay pretty much dialed in to a certain calorie number. Otherwise, if you just start eating a bunch of crap, it's a lot easier to blow up after that cut.
Yeah.
So those clean foods, that's why a lot of people, like, I don't know, Instagram, anyone on YouTube, they'll say, hey, eat these calorie dense, or no, what is it? High volume, low calorie dense foods because you're able to eat a lot without putting much calories down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And which is true from the longevity standpoint. Like, if you want to lose weight and live longer and healthier, you eat at the calorie deficit because you want to lose weight, that's what you have to eat because you'll fill up on those meals, but they're low calorie.
Yeah.
You want to actually perform, eat the processed stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're gonna have to sprinkle it in. It's not the best for you, but you can find better processed food if like you do want to like dial that in.
Yeah.
Like it just.
But I'd say if you're eating processed food, eat something that you like because that's essentially what the point is at that point.
Yeah. Don't just pound something because it's something you need.
Sometimes I do that if I gotta hit numbers, but
yes,
that's another thing that's nice about those because you don't have to go hunting for specifically proportioned foods. You're like, how many carbs in this banana? How many almonds do I have to eat in tandem with this banana so I can hit certain macros?
Yeah, I think in what's helped me later on, I haven't probably counted macros in 2 years. I've maintained about the same body composition. I mean, when we just competed pretty highly at Fittest of the Coast, and I haven't counted, like I said, in about 2 years. Just hitting my protein intake and then just eating when I'm like need to. I feel hungry, I'm gonna eat, and then I eat my ice cream at night. And it's like that has helped me maintain like just my main focus is that I eat 185 grams of protein today.
Yeah.
I have to eat that. That is my only, and everything kind of else falls into place a little bit, for the most part. Like if you don't have to track completely, but I think that is one number you should really be conscious about, because if you're underfed there, you're not going to really see the muscular gains you want to see. So, but then like also to the other point of the underfed, like if you go eat some fast food, dude, you just eat whatever, you eat fast food. And fast food gets a very negative, and it's not good for you. But like when you go out to eat, there's probably not much difference.
There isn't, no.
like when you go to, like, unless you're going to like a high-end steakhouse or something like that, like, I'm sorry, you go to Applebee's, there ain't much difference than you go to McDonald's, buddy. Like, you might have thought, but there really isn't, unless maybe you ate the pink chicken nugget, the pink goo or whatever, chicken nuggets.
What?
Yeah, McDonald's makes their chicken nuggets out of pink goo. It's crazy how good they
Oh,
taste for being like
I thought you were
pink goo.
talking about like undercooked chicken.
No.
Who's eating
They
that?
make it out of like a pink goo. It's really weird. It's definitely not chicken at all. I don't know if they still do it that way. But yeah, that was
Probably
like a big thing back like 10 years ago. It was
chicken
like, "Ooh,
adjacent."
pink goo." Yeah. It's
Almost chicken.
It's just like, it looked like Play-Doh.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
But overall, like, it's not much different. That's it. Like, dude, if you need to hit your Mac, go eat a grilled chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Like, you're not. It's gonna be fine.
Dude,
It's gonna be great, actually. Like, it's actually probably gonna be better for you than you eating salmon and rice again.
Say I'm not eating ice cream on a given night, it's like, here's how it works. I look at how much fat I have left for the day. I look at how much carbs I have left for the day. If it's a lot of carbs and minimal protein, or maybe minimal fat, I'm like, crap, I can't have ice cream.
Yeah.
No, I'll just have Pop-Tarts.
I'll just have
Mission
Pop-Tarts.
accomplished.
Yeah, mission
Yeah.
accomplished. Yeah, I just ate 60 grams of carbs
Yeah.
and probably like 3 grams of fat or something like that in
It
the
was
Pop-Tart.
like 7 to 9,
7
depending
to
on the
9, okay.
package.
More than I thought, but still, like, so minimal.
Now, it's like, are these recommendations for your average person? No.
No.
Can they not eat these things? No, they can have them.
They can definitely still have them.
But when you're looking at your athlete, trying to, how do I want to phrase this? When you're looking at your athlete who's pretty much just trying to fuel their off-season work and or gain weight, throw the crap down.
Yep.
Like,
Throw the crap down.
Eat mostly clean, but eat some crap.
Exactly.
It makes it easier to eat more.
Yep. That's how you're going to gain weight. You
pretty
can
much
only
what it
gain
is.
weight in a calorie surplus.
If you are working so hard in your training, you're going to know whenever you're hungry.
Yeah.
Not because your stomach hurts, but you're just like, my eyes
Yep.
are starting to fall a little bit. I'm feeling tired.
Yep.
I can't think as clearly.
Yep.
I will drink a Gatorade.
Yep.
I'll eat a pack of
Because
Pop-Tarts.
you were probably, one, dehydrated. Yep.
And low on sugar.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're
It's
an
very
athlete,
simple.
eat some crap sometimes.
Eat some crap. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving to our final brief topic, prioritizing your off-season. We talked about what it does for your body, how you can improve your performance, how you can approach your training, how you can approach your nutrition. But what are the benefits from a mental standpoint of taking an off-season? What kind of mental fatigue can we run into if we are pretty much playing our sport year-round? And how can we kind of resituate our intangible goals by taking a legitimate off-season?
Yeah. The burnout is such an underrated thing. Like, what is it? There's a quote, motivation compared to like discipline or something like that. Like, motivation's going to burn out 20 out of 20 times.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be motivated every day, and especially if you are just playing the same thing over and over and over and over. You need that break to just have that reset and want to have that hunger to come back. Like, you want to have that hunger to come back. And if you just play the whole time, you're like, I just got out of the season. I just killed my body and lost again. Like, I don't want to just go into another season and lose again.
Now, the crazy thing about these sports seasons is usually whenever they end, whether it's in the playoffs or something, that is the point where motivation starts to creep back up for these athletes. And They just want to carry that into whatever sort of off-season league that they join, depending on the sport.
Yes.
And usually that is a bad cycle that they can get thrown into.
Yeah, it's a horrible cycle they can get thrown into because, like you said, all right, I'm peaked up. I want to go into this. And then 2 months down the road, body starts to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So mentally, that's going to take it. My knees hurt. My shoulder hurts. Now I'm thinking like, I got to go to practice and I'm just going to feel pain. So mentally you're like, I don't want to do that. This sucks.
Yeah.
I'm just hurting every day. Especially if you're having not a great season, losing, probably not having a great season because your body's dead. So the mental fatigue on that is like, I'm starting to stink. I'm getting worse. And that's where probably a lot of the mental comes in is like, yeah, physically you're getting worse, and now mentally you're just going to have that snowball effect of like, because you can't keep up this output on your body.
And there's something to be said about you start running enough continuous time of playing these sports in their specific confines. So I'm playing regular season basketball, spring league or whatever they call it, summer league, whatever they do.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where you start to get a little bit of fatigue just because you notice maybe you aren't improving as drastically as you want or at all. And whenever you start to implement an off season and you resituate your goals, you say, oh, if I take a step back and I say I'm getting better at A, B, C instead of trying to just lump it all into A through Z on the court,
right.
It makes it a little bit more approachable from a mental standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get my legs stronger. I'm trying to improve my back squat, or at least the velocity on my back squat at a given weight.
Yep.
That's a lot easier to stomach than saying, I just got to get better at basketball. Because after enough years of that, it becomes discouraging because you're not noticing the improvements as fast as you want them to come.
That's probably that could be one of the probably biggest reasons of burnout.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're just going into every game like, oh, I need to get this A through Z better, and that's never going to happen in the middle of the game, and it doesn't happen in games. You don't learn much in games. You have to learn outside of games to get better in the game.
Yeah.
That's why you have practice. That's why you have off seasons. That's why you get stronger, and you're not going to get stronger if you're just constantly tearing your body down.
Yeah, this is going to sound, I don't know if it's going to be good, bad sounding, but if you essentially objectify yourself, because you're treating yourself like in the hyper subjective state whenever you are saying, I just want to go out there and compete 24/7 every day.
Yes.
You are saying, you're reacting to your emotional drive to go out there and compete and improve. Yep. If you take a step back from yourself as a subject, as an emotionally driven person, you say, okay, I'm looking at myself pretty much as a machine, as an object. I'm assessing where does my performance need to improve.
Yep.
It creates space for you to perceive yourself in a different way, and it allows you to relax all that mental stress you're placing on yourself, especially all that emotional stress.
Yeah.
Because when you're going out there and competing all the time, you're starting to grade your value as a person based on your performance.
Based on performance.
If you step back and say, "Oh, I had shortcomings in these capacities, and now let me develop a training program for those," and just focus on those, your training maybe takes 50 to 70 minutes instead of playing basketball for 2 hours. But then it allows you the mental reprieve of going and doing everything else after you say, oh, okay, I've already checked that box. I'm working on what I need to work on, and now I can go be a person who doesn't necessarily play basketball or whatever sport 24/7.
Yeah, your identity's not attached to that. And like you said, with your shortcomings, from that mental state, also, you're going to see progress. Those are your weaknesses.
Yeah.
If it's laid out right, you're going to start with, oh, I got better at this. Oh, I put 10 pounds on my back squat. Oh, I weighed 10 pounds more. Like, confidence is starting to build. You're like, okay, I'm seeing that now. That mental fatigue goes to like, I'm winning every day.
Yeah,
almost.
Exactly.
Like, some days you're not going to want to go in and do the workout, blah blah blah. Like, not every day is great, but you're gonna, if you just look at it from month to month, you're gonna actually see that progress. Like, this is where I started. Now I'm in month 2, and I am way better. I'm stronger. I'm faster. I can jump higher. My body feels better. As in, if you played, you're just like, oh, I'm just mentally lost again.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost again.
Yeah, whenever you are orchestrating these training programs, especially in the off season, your finish line should be within reach every time. It should be like, the finish line should be saying, here, I'm just like giving myself up to you.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something you have to fight for too hard as if you're competing against another person. These finish lines are right in front of you, and if you keep hitting those, you're not going to hit them every time, like you just said.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to be so easily attainable that you don't have to work at all for them.
Exactly.
But if they're right there and you can win 19 out of 20 days, that's very good on your psyche, very good on the motivation going into your next season.
Is going to be
saying,
awesome.
oh, I improved almost every day, almost every week within each mesocycle of my off season, and now I'm ready to funnel that into my season. And, oh, it's been a while since I played basketball in this capacity, or whatever sport. I don't know why I keep saying basketball, but by the time you get back to it, there's that drive to jump back in. You're hungry for it again.
Hungry for it
if
again.
that hunger started to taper off by the end of your last cycle.
Like you said, because mentally you won 19 out of 20 times.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, now I'm hungry to go win on and put this to use.
Yeah.
Yes, your first week might suck because you haven't picked up a basketball. And I'm not saying don't pick up the basketball, dribble a little bit, keep your shot, but don't play. Yeah. Just stop playing. Like, stop playing.
And to talk about stacking those wins, we'll circle back to those young wrestlers who just mop the floor with everybody.
Yeah.
That's more of a mental side of it, but the mental side is what we're talking about here. There's something
that
good that comes from just saying, oh, I'm winning every time I'm stepping onto the mat, onto the court, onto the field, or into the training room.
Yep.
Those training settings are most easily situated by you, by who is ever writing your programming, to make sure that you win.
Yeah.
So that's accomplishing what these freaks are accomplishing on the mat, on the field, on the court. At whatever early ages, if you can control that variable, if you can manipulate your setting, that you win every time you step onto the court, onto the field, into the training room, the mental benefits are pretty much inarticulable.
Yeah, literally. I mean, think about Kobe Bryant and the Mamba mentality. That dude thought he was the best every time he walked on the court. Was he? Maybe, maybe not. He's one of the best basketball players of all time, but it doesn't matter who he's going up against. He's like, I'm better than you. And that's because when training, he won every single day. He took off seasons. He trained. I mean, you listen to him. I think he said he scored like 2 points in a game when he was in like 8th grade or whatever. And then he's like, know what I did? I took off and I got stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I worked on my weaknesses that I stunk at. He's like, and then I came back in 10th grade, and now I'm one of the best basketball players in high school.
Oh, for some reason, I can jump higher now. For some reason, I can drive a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Because he even said he wasn't one of the most athletically gifted like LeBron or like a Michael Jordan. He didn't have that like freak vertical. He didn't have that freak speed.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, dude, I had to refine skills, and I had to get stronger and faster. And it's like, oh, now I can jump with these guys because he won every single day in the weight room. And when you compound, like you said, when you just compound interest, let me just build my confidence every day. I'll put my investment in it. It's going to compound. And like you said, 19 out of 20 times, it's a pretty good compound.
Yes.
And you're going to be very confident. Confidence is probably everything in sports.
Agreed.
If you're not confident going into it, you're going to fail, more than likely. I mean, sometimes kids might surprise themselves just out of luck or naturally just reacted to something. But if you don't have the confidence, you're going to probably get buried, especially in wrestling.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, if you don't have confidence, you're going to hesitate, and you're probably going to get everyone's going to have butterflies going into it, and there's always doubt, but you have to have some type of confidence, and the way you build that confidence is by just training appropriately and constantly winning instead of just constantly mentally fatiguing yourself by just burying, never getting better at your weaknesses. Yeah.
You want to call it there?
Sure.
All right.
Call it.
You have any final remarks? You think that's a good punctuation?
I don't know if I have any final remarks. Eat your protein.
Yeah.
Sleep 8+ hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we covered. I mean, the outline was pretty brief, but we covered everything that's on here, and we also covered a lot more that doesn't even have to do with
Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
I might have just talked too much here and random stuff. But
No, we both did. I think that's good for this kind of thing.
yeah, I think it ends up just being a conversation. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Alrighty.
Find out.
Deuces.
Deuces.